Alrighty. So I'm going to be talking to you about the structure of the Army officers when you get commissioned. So when you first commission as an Army officer, you go in as a second lieutenant. As a second lieutenant, you are a platoon leader, and then after you've been a second lieutenant for about 2 years, you get promoted into a first lieutenant, and you just lead specialized platoons instead. And oftentimes, first lieutenants can be selected to be executive officers of a company. And then from a first lieutenant, you go on to a captain, which is a company commander, and he's just addressed as captain. And both first and second lieutenant generally are just addressed as lieutenants. And then from the captain, you go on to a major, which is again addressed as a major and serves as a primary staff officer for brigade and force regarding personnel and logisticals. And then from the major, you go on to the lieutenant colonel, which is a battalion commander, and it may be selected for brigade and task force executive officers. And then from the lieutenant colonel, you go down to the colonel, which is a brigade commander. And then you get over to the other side, which is more the generals. So you start off with the brigadier general, which is a deputy commander, and he oversees the staff's primary and the coordination of missions. And then you get on to a major general, which is a division commander. And then from major general, you get promoted up to lieutenant general, which is a corps commander. And then you go down to the general, which is the highest, basically senior ranking for commissioned officers. The chief of staff is a 4-star general. And then what we don't have anymore is the general of the army, better known as the 5-star general. We basically just don't have that anymore. We only had it during specific times. And then you go down to some of the duties that these have. Most of these duties are held by captains. One is held by a major. But then you go into S1s, which is all matters concerning human resources. And S1s also, keep track of attendance records and all your stats and reports. And then you go on to S3, which is operations and training. This is the one that is commanded by a major, and this is basically anything, resulting in training. He basically develops and supervises, the training of all the units. And you go to the S4, which is logistics. This is, coordination of the supply, maintenance, and transportation services for the command. Then you go up to S5, which is civil relations, which is, kind of in itself. It's just your relations with the media, with other people, civilians. And then you go into S6, which is communications, which again, is kind of self-explanatory. Communications, whether it be with your unit or other people. And then you go on to the S8, which is the budget. They are responsible for getting together fundraising events, and they're also responsible for the Cadet Cowboy Fund account for recruiting cadets. And yeah, all of these, except for S3, are captains. The S1, S2, S4, S5, S6, S8 are all captains, and S3 is major, just since it's more specified at operations and the trainings. And yeah, do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, I actually have 5 whole questions for you.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So why don't we have 5-star generals anymore?
The only time that we have 5-star generals is when we need an officer ranking to be the same as in another nation. And the last time we had that, was World War II. So.
Okay. So, what is the difference between the first and second lieutenants?
Oh, the second lieutenant, when you first commission as an officer, you go in as a second lieutenant. It's kind of like an entry rank for it. And then the first lieutenant is what you get promoted to, after, I think, about 2 years, so you promote up to that. It's just more kind of specialized platoons and a little bit more responsibility.
Okay. So what's the different duties of the second, or the S2?
The intelligence?
Yeah.
Oh, they're really anything associated with the intelligence or weather or the terrain analysis. They're responsible for just really anything regarding the necessary information needed for missions to be executed successfully.
Oh, cool. So how do you get promoted?
For the second lieutenant or the first lieutenant, as long as you're doing a good job, just more experience is what gets you promoted. And from there, again, experience kind of ties in, but it's kind of the same as another job. If you're doing a good job, you're doing your job well, you're leading well, then you'll get promoted. It's kind of the same thing throughout the Army. If you're doing your job well and showing exemplary skills of leadership, and then you'll be more apt to get promoted.
Cool. So can you remind me one more time, why the S3s are, why they're majors instead of
because it's more focused on the operations and training, and some of the training that's been going on can be some of the captain's training, so that you want to have a higher ranking, specializing for the trainings and logistics, since they're going to be supervising it directly, and they're going to be planning some of the trainings, so they try and have a higher officer ranking training that. Or give me that going.
All right.
Any more questions?
No, I think I'm good.
Good to go. All right.
Thanks.